Hey, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Live Without Training Wheels. I'm your host, Lena Sutherland. I'm the owner and author at Homeschooling Without Training Wheels and homeschool mama to 8 kiddos, ages teen to toddler. And tonight, I'm really excited to be joined by my friends Karen Loutzenhiser and Michelle Copher, who are the authors of Layers of Learning, and they're also sisters. And we're going to talk more with them in just a moment. But first, I want to do a few housekeeping details to make sure that you're comfortable here and you know your way around this platform. You might be watching us from Facebook or from YouTube. And just want to let you know that we're actually live streaming from a platform called Crowdcast. You are more than welcome to just stay on Facebook or YouTube and watch us from there. But if you want to participate in the discussion, the comments, and asking questions, you'll want to look in the video description for the link to hop over here and join us in Crowdcast. That's where we can see your comments and questions. If you're in Crowdcast, you're going to get the best engagement from a desktop or laptop just because it's easier to type. But if you're viewing from a mobile device, that's fine too. You'll want to turn it into landscape mode. Press the square in the top right corner so that you can go full screen, and then just tap View Chat, and you'll be able to see just about everything that you would see on a desktop. Also, at the bottom of the screen, there's two things you're going to want to notice. One is that there's a poll. So if you're watching here tonight, go ahead and click on the poll. The question that we're asking tonight is, how many years are there between your oldest and your youngest child? Because sometimes we have a wide range because we have many children, and sometimes we have a wide range because we just have a wide range. So I'm just curious how many years there are between your oldest and your youngest, and we'll take a look at those poll results in a little bit. And then right next to the polls button, there's a button that says Ask a Question. We've already got one question queued up for tonight, and I'm sure that there will be more, but at any time during our discussion, if there's something you'd like to ask Karen and Michelle, go ahead and drop it in the Ask a Question box. And if you see questions popping in there that are of interest to you that you also would like to hear answered, make sure to click on it to vote for that question. Usually we have time to get to all the questions, but sometimes we don't. So what we do is we just start with the questions that have the most votes because we know those are the ones that are going to be of interest to the most people who are watching live tonight. So if you see a question, upvote it to make sure that we get a chance to cover that during our Q&A session at the end tonight. Okay. That covers our housekeeping details. So I'm going to hop right into our discussion tonight, and let's get to know Karen and Michelle a little bit. I already mentioned that you're the creators of Layers of Learning, but would you just back up a little bit and tell us about your families and maybe how you got into this whole business?
Yeah, so I'm Michelle, and this one's Karen, and I'm the big sister. She's my little sister, so she has to do whatever I say.
Most of the time.
It's worked really well, right? So anyway, I have 6 kids. My oldest is 21 and my youngest is 11. So it's actually about an 11-year spread between them. So there's the poll question answered. Mm-hmm. Karen?
And I have 4 kids, and my oldest just graduated from high school. So he's just about to turn 18, and my youngest is 9. So pretty big spread there too. And they're fun ages right now because they're all pretty self-sufficient, and it's an awesome time of homeschooling.
Everybody can, yeah.
Sorry,
go ahead. I was going to say, everybody can buckle themselves in the car now. We're not at that phase yet.
Yeah. Today I was telling Karen, a red letter day of my life was the first time I walked out of the house without any children or any diaper bags in my hand and went to the grocery store. That was it was beautiful.
Yeah, yep.
And we have always homeschooled. Both of us have been at this for a really long time.
Since the early 2000s, which makes me feel old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so tell me a little bit, I know a little bit of the story because I've heard you talk about it on your podcast, but how did Layers of Learning come about?
It began because my mom always gets us together every summer for a family reunion. And we would get together and talk about how we wished we had this curriculum, or we wished we had a curriculum that did that, or we'd complain that we couldn't find this. And our mom said, why don't you write one? And we were like, But then we decided, yeah, let's write some stuff. And so we just started writing it for our own kids mostly.
Yeah, little by little, it started, we wrote lesson ideas and shared them with each other. And then we decided we should blog about these. Some of this is really fun, and it was going super well in our homeschools. And so we started blogging, and just little by little, it built up and had an awesome response. And we kind of said, hey, maybe we could turn this into something. And so, yeah, it was really gradual, but it was an awesome way to start because it was starting with our families.
So you were product testing everything right from the beginning.
Everything.
Yeah. Our
Okay,
kids have always been really involved.
So for those who might not be familiar, describe like what is layers of learning, or what does a unit look like?
So we had, like I said, we were talking about what we wish we had in the curriculum. So we basically had this wish list of things we wanted. And we put all of it into layers of learning. First of all, we both have several children and we've got a big spread in ages. So we needed something that we could do with all of our kids at once. So we designed layers of learning to be that, so that we could sit down and do a history lesson with everybody. And everybody could glean from it, learn from it, grow from it. So that was the first thing.
And then our favorite subjects are history, geography, science, and art. So we said, that's what we're going to focus on. We're going to do the things that we really love. And that kind of feels like the reward part of homeschooling. It's like the fun part. And so we just kind of started to grab resources and ideas from each other and from all over the place. And we kind of put it together into this grand outline of learning so that moms could take it and pick and choose what they wanted from it and leave the parts that they didn't want. We just wanted it to have lots of ideas and be full of variety.
Yeah, so the core of it is kind of hands-on activities that you can pick and choose between. And then there are also book lists, again, that you pick and choose between. And there's web links and there's worksheets. And all of it is just, you get to decide which things you want. So you can design it around your family and your needs and go as big or as small as you want in a unit.
Yeah, I've loved that.
Yeah.
It's like a buffet. Like you go and you pick, like, you need a protein and you need a, vegetable, and you just kind of grab, like, we're going to do one of these. Now, I admit I'm more of the like, okay, can we read aloud and do something that can come out of the printer?
I am too. I'm actually not, I'm not the project mom. Yeah. Usually when my kids are doing a craft, I tell them, okay, here's what the craft is. And I set it up and I walk out of the room because I can't stand it. But my kids like it. So
yeah, mummifying a hot dog was.
Yeah, Karen's different.
Yeah.
We actually have really different personalities and different strengths. And so it's been nice because they've worked well together as we've been writing this curriculum and building our website and everything else that we've done.
So now do you both love all four subjects, or did you, like, Karen have some that were her highlights and Michelle some that were her strengths? Or
well, I think we both love all four subjects, but I'm definitely more of the science and history, and Karen is much more, especially with art. And then geography, I feel like we're kind of.
And then we just added our writer's workshop curriculum, and that's all me. Like I do all of the writing stuff.
She's the Yoda of writer's workshop.
Yes. Okay. So I have to admit, I'm personally very excited about that. I've purchased it all, everything that's available so far, downloaded it, reviewed it. I'm really excited about this because I heard you talk about it. I listened to the podcast episode when you talked about writer's workshops, and it was like, okay, I think I get it. But if somebody could just kind of, flesh that out for me a little bit. And then it was like, oh, yes, well, here it is. So let's talk about a couple of things that I know are particular interests from folks. One is, and both of these you've got podcasts on, which I will link to below. So if you're listening and you're thinking, I want more of that, I can send you to where you can find more of that. But give me a real brief synopsis of what a writer's workshop looks like, or what that idea means.
Well, writer's workshop is really the concept that you're all learning to write in little short, interesting bursts together. So your whole family is learning to write and kind of pooling ideas. And mom kind of serves as the mentor in that, but she gets to write too. And everybody shares what they write as you go. So it's a very cooperative writing environment with just short little lessons called mini lessons that teach the grammar and the tools of writing. But those are not really the focus of the program. The focus is on the writing and on the creativity, the artistic side of writing.
And you've got a little bit of it's a kind of like an overlapping or a meshing of, writing like skills and strategies, but then also writing different genres, right? Applying those ideas to different genres of writing. Yeah,
kids can write a story or a report or, whatever it is that they're working on. And I teach within it little tools that moms can use to help their kids be more effective in that particular writing style. but again, in really short little doses so that it doesn't steal the message that the kids have in their minds that they're trying to share.
The thing that has changed writing for me and for my kids is that they're learning that writing is not the physical act of putting stuff down on paper. It's communicating. And so anytime any kid that can communicate can write. We just have to help them get past some of those mechanics, and we can assist them with that. Like, that was mind changing to me when Karen was helping me through that. So that has been huge for me. And then also the way that she evaluates writing. I remember in school, you just got an A, a B, a C on your writing, and you didn't really know why. But that's not the way that the evaluating writing is taught in Writer's Workshop at all. It has a building focus. So even while you're evaluating, your children are learning. They're learning the next step, and you're evaluating them based on what you feel like they have already been taught, not based on what a professional writer would be writing, if that makes sense.
Or even necessarily like, this is what a third grader is supposed to do, but like, where have you come from? What have you done so far? Where, yeah, I love that.
Very individual.
Yeah. Okay. So the other question that folks have been asking about is, and I think this is true with almost any approach to homeschooling or any, curriculum that you love or whatever, like, I love this. It's, just what our family always wanted. And this approach feels right. But then high school, do we have to does it really work for high school? Do we have to just, throw all that out and go to this completely different kind of setup because now it's credits and transcripts and blah, blah, blah. What has been I know you just had an episode on that and I haven't listened to it yet. It's downloaded into Podcast Addict waiting for me, but I want to hear your 2-minute synopsis. Does layers of learning really work for high school?
We ended up stretching it to 2 podcast episodes because we talked so much about high school, but our kids did layers of learning all the way through high school. It's a very research-based program. So you're teaching kids how to learn. So as they progress into high school, that is becoming more independent with layers of learning. They're doing it less with your family and more on their own, but that's what every high schooler wants. They want to be more independent. And they're learning the information just a little bit more independently, but it's all kind of the same method that they've been learning as they've grown up in a layers of learning homeschool. So
yeah, and it tends to be more thorough than a traditional high school education would be because children have time to read and delve into their interests. And learning isn't about learning a set of facts. It's about learning to love to learn. It's learning to research. It's learning. It's not really a set of facts. There isn't a set of facts that people have to know. You want them to go into high school or into college having certain skills and having a desire to learn and the ability to research and learn things on their own and to think critically and correctly. So that's what layers of learning teaches in high school.
So my oldest will be a high school freshman next year, and his sister, who's 13 months younger than him, probably academically is right like where he is as well. So I'm kind of thinking of them both as entering freshman next year. And so I've been, kind of ruminating a lot on this. Like, this has been great. We've done a lot together. But even this past spring, I did more like, okay, we're studying this, but you guys, I want you to go up in your room and like read this and do this thing. I just felt like it freed us up a little bit to let them go more in depth and then let us do some of those things that, I don't know, maybe it's just my kids, but the older two kind of got to the phase where like there was more eye rolling happening about some of the like coloring the map activity and stuff. And I was like, okay, I'm going to free the younger ones up to be able to fully enjoy this without, anybody making comments about anything being babyish. And I'm going to free the older ones up to, like you said, be able to read a little more in depth. So I feel like I'm just navigating that. Like up until now, we really have done everything together. So it's like, okay, this is a little different. We're kind of embarking on new territory here.
Yeah, and you can leave that open. If you're making silver come out of solution in a test tube, your high schoolers are going to jump on that. They're not going to be, oh, this is babyish. So there's a lot of layers of learning, hands-on stuff that is still definitely going to interest high schoolers.
Yeah.
And isn't babyish. And there are some things in layers of learning that are geared directly to high schoolers too. So.
Yeah. So have you guys?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you finish.
I was just going to say, I think the trick of it is once your high schoolers go off a little bit more independently, the awesome thing is when you invite everyone kind of back together and say, hey, let's everybody share what we did and learned. Because then you still have that family school thing going on and the whole dynamic that you want. And they feel awesome about that because they feel really smart when they've gone deep into something and they can share it with their siblings.
So I know you guys have done, and this has been hugely helpful to us. Like you went through a bunch of common history curriculums, like Story of the World, and went through and said, okay, so if you're using layers of learning, then here's where the different chapters of Story of the World would match up with these different units of layers of learning. So would you? I'm not saying like, would you produce this for us? But as a homeschool mom, would you do something like that for yourself with, say, like, so we got the Head First Physics book that you guys recommended in one of the earlier units. Did you kind of go through and say, okay, so these, sections are going to go with this unit in layers of learning. These sections are going to go, and you just would kind of pull as needed for the topics that you covered?
So we've mostly done that as people have requested it. And we have a Facebook group. And so in our Facebook group, people will say, hey, I really love this resource. How does it flow with layers of learning? And so I buy whatever resource it is usually, and I create a correlation between the two programs. Because we really encourage researching and branching out. We don't ever want to say, oh, you shouldn't be using more. You should absolutely be using more. Go find great books and ideas and pool all of that together. So just as I've been able to, I've created the correlations between
and we have also had some of the parents in the Facebook group make correlation charts and share them inside the Facebook group with others too. So it's really, Layers of Learning has become this whole community of people that share and help each other out. It's been really great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the Facebook group has been a great place for just discussing in general kind of the culture of family schooling. Like, what does it look like to homeschool with a wide range of ages and just to, manage with all the people and all the stages and everything like that. I've really enjoyed that as a place to be online. Okay, so I do want to take some time, since this month we've been talking about, by moms, for moms, things that moms have created, so we're doing homeschooling, but then we have a little bit of business on the side, which, how would we have resources created by homeschool moms who are right there in the middle of homeschooling, unless there were moms who are kind of doing this, business and homeschooling and mom, wife, homemaker balance there. And I love what Karen said in Instagram, something like, and if I massacre this too badly, Karen, you can correct me, but it was something like, it's like life on a high wire. It's a balancing act, but you've got a great view, or something like that. I loved that quote.
It really is. Everything's a balancing act when you're a mom, it seems like, because you could be doing a million things, right? And especially if you have a job on the side, and we have a job that is done from our homes primarily. So there's always something to do. My to-do list grows, it doesn't shrink. And so you're always balancing. What do I spend my time on right now? But the cool thing is that we have loved this because our side gig gets to involve our families in really fun ways. We've become better homeschool moms because we've built this curriculum than we ever would have been if we didn't. So it's been really rewarding for us. And then the awesome view part partly comes from the community that we have built. I get to see the perspectives of so many homeschoolers, and that has helped me to be a more complete person. So it's been a really building thing for me.
Now, have there been, go ahead. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Have there been any conflicts of interest, or just, moments where your kids or your family were feeling like, hey, why are you on the computer again? Or, hey, we don't get as much time with you as we used to, or?
Yeah, well, probably. I don't know. I've ignored my children. No, no. I mean, like Karen said, there are always going to be times when you're like, oh, am I choosing the best thing? Right? Am I choosing to spend my time the way I should be? But I think that's true no matter what we choose. I think we end up feeling guilty whether we're choosing to spend our time writing on the computer or if we're choosing to spend it at a soccer game. And we're going to be like, oh, I could be doing something else that's better. So I think you have to, at some point, decide how you want your life to look, how you want it to be built. And I think you need to take yourself into consideration in that. And not, your kids are important and you need to focus on them, but you also you're a person and you need to focus on yourself too. And so for Layers of Learning, that has been a way for us to grow, for Karen and I to grow as people. We've expanded so many talents that we never ever thought we would through this process. And we've learned, and we feel like we're still learning so much. And that has made us feel so much more fulfilled, I think, than I would have if I had just homeschooled and focused on solely that.
Yeah. And, the funny thing is when we talked about last week, we were talking about life outside of homeschooling. And so many of the moms that were on there discussing were like, well, I have what I think is a life outside of homeschooling, except it's homeschooling related. So I don't know if that counts. And it was like, look what I take my Tuesday nights to do. Like, this is my free time. I'm on here doing homeschool interviews. So like, it's like you can take the mom out of the homeschool, but you can't take the homeschool out of the mom or something. I don't know. But it's like a different take on it than just,
Yeah, and I think as long as you're feeling fulfilled and growing, and your kids aren't completely neglected. I mean, we still focus on our families. We still, we homeschool every day, and our kids are in activities and sports and different things, and we still focus on them. We have family dinners together all the time, and we do things together a lot. It's not like we're neglecting them. In fact, that's one of the reasons that we've grown pretty slowly, is because we have purposely decided that our families are the priority. But this is still a very important part of our life. So we do put a lot of time aside for layers of learning.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And we are all thankful that you do podcasting and curriculum creating and all of that. So we were talking a little bit about this before we went live, but can you just tell us how layers of learning came about? How did you get to go from like, hey, we wish there was a curriculum to like, oh, we have a shop online where you can buy 4 years worth of material?
Like I said, it all was really a slow process because we're homeschool moms. But we started,
and we had babies then.
Yeah, we did. We started when we had babies. Karen's youngest son wasn't even born until after we had begun. But we just started with a blog, and we were putting activities up there, hands-on stuff that people could do. And we started to see, oh, this has some sort of structure. And so we decided, how would we organize this into a curriculum? And we started making outlines. We're both planning nerds. So we started making outlines, and it took years before we sold our first product, which was actually our 99-cent planner, which we still sell. It's updated since the first one, but we still sell our 99-cent planner.
Well, and we decided to create that because we thought, you know what, maybe we could go from a blog to a website, but we didn't have much money for that. So we just sold enough 99-cent planners that we could buy 3 years of a website.
Yeah, and which is not that much money, but but we funded this all. Everything that we've done, we funded from these little sales that we've done all along the way.
We've never put anything of our own into it other than our own minds and time and all of that. And we never relied on it. We never thought, oh, we need this for a job. It's been able to be slow growth, which is what our families needed. But now it's grown pretty big, but it's at the point where our kids are a lot more self-sufficient.
And so we don't have babies and toddlers anymore. And I can spend more time than I could before because of the ages of my children. So.
Yeah. Betsy says, with this entire series of interviews, I keep hearing slow growth, and I love that, keeping first things first. Julie Bogart said the same thing, that she didn't, intentionally didn't do a lot of like, touring the homeschool conference circuits and stuff like that when her kids were little. And, she wanted to be available to be at the Little League games and the, performances and whatever.
We've been thinking about the homeschool conferences and things like that for the last couple of years, but we have purposely decided not to do those yet because we do still have young children at home, and we want to take them camping, and we want to spend time with our kids before they're gone, which is happening faster and faster.
Yeah. All right. Well, let me do a couple things here. First of all, I'm going to just put up a little button here at the bottom. So, we've talked a lot this evening about layers of learning. And if you are interested at all, I would highly encourage you to go ahead and check out. Karen and Michelle actually offer the first unit of year one. Why don't you tell them what that means? What do I mean when I say like year one and units and what's included and that you can get for free?
Yeah.
So this is the first unit, and each unit is roughly about 80 pages. And so each one has a history component, a geography, a science, and an art. And there are 4 years of the program. It kind of follows the standard 4-year rotation that a lot of homeschool programs do. And so this is the first complete unit that you can get free. And that's because we want people to try it before they buy it. I think a lot of homeschool moms jump at curriculum and then they're not sure if it's right for them. And so we want people to be happy with their purchase and get to try it out free. So this one is about Mesopotamia, and then maps and globes, planets, and then cave painting. And you can just try out, see what the program is like, and then know if you're interested.
Yeah, so each unit, when we wrote it, we were thinking 2 weeks. It'd take about 2 weeks to do a unit. But a lot of families use it for much longer. They say 2 weeks isn't long enough. We use it for 4 weeks or whatever they choose to do. But it's really flexible, so you can use it for longer or shorter. And there are 20 units in a year, and there's 4 years in the whole curriculum. So you go through your first year, picking and choosing activities through unit by unit, and then you go into your second year and your third year and your fourth year, and then you can start over again when your kids are older and they're reading different books, and you can pick different explorations the second time, visit new websites. So even though you're doing the same exact unit again, it's not the same curriculum. It's not the same stuff with your kids.
Yeah, I love that there's just no possible way you could do it all. So that kind of releases you from that being the upper limit. Like you just can't. So you like, okay, well, there's no way I can do all of these. So I just am free to pick, a couple, and then we'll circle back around and we'll hit some more of those next time. Show them what the reading list page looks like and the little icons that are on that page that go throughout the explorations and things.
Yeah, so the reading list is divided into the subjects too. So there's a reading list for history, and one for geography, and one for science, and one for art. It's not like a list of things you have to read. It's just some ideas that you can search for at your library. And then we also have search terms. So if you can't find those, then you can pick other books that your library does have. We hope that people aren't spending a ton of extra money or overextending themselves doing this. We wrote it so that people could use resources that are easily available, and they could just grab from whatever they have at their local library or things that are already at home, maybe.
And then right here, I'm going to try to show it. They're little smiley faces, and the yellow smiley faces are for the youngest kids, like 1st through 4th grade. And then the green are for your middle grades, and then the blue are specifically for high school. So you can quickly see the activities in the books that go for the different ages, which hopefully is a mom sanity saver when you've got a big family. It is for us.
Yeah. Yeah. And there are plenty that, like it might be for an older, age range, but the little ones are interested in following along or whatever that, they kind of are flexible like that.
Some of them can be used as a read aloud, and much younger children can join in, or even older kids too. I read aloud just fun books to my kids, and they all join me still. I've got 4 of them still at home. And from my 11-year-old up to my 17-year-old, they all sit and listen to me read aloud to them. And you can do that with a lot of things in layers of learning that same way.
Yeah. So we've been doing layers of learning. I think I told Karen and Michelle beforehand, I think it's been about 1.5 years, because I remember I discovered it in the middle of a year and it was just what we needed. And so we started right in. We finished 10 units. Like in 1.5 years, we've gone through 10 units, because there have been times where so at one point we were going through, I guess we got to the place where we were learning about Newton's laws of motion. And I had a biography that my 1st grade Sunday school teacher, she's now a published author, and she wrote a biography of Sir Isaac Newton. And we just got into that, and we'd finished all the other stuff from that unit. It was like, you know what, this is going to be our table school for a while. We're just going to finish this biography, and we would occasionally do little offshoots of that, so, but, I guess different homeschools are going to operate differently, but for us, it's just been this wealth of ideas. And if we jump off and we take longer on something, I'm fine with that, because like you said, it's not so much like certain facts you have to get in or certain boxes you have to check. It's more about the learning process and loving the learning. And so for loving it, I'm not going to be like, well, too bad, 2 weeks is up. We have to stop that now and just, no more learning about Isaac Newton. I don't care if you're interested,
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of people, we encourage people to adapt it and use it the way that they want to. And a lot of people, when they're just first starting, they'll say, how am I supposed to do this? And we're like, however you want. And I think that's a big leap for people to take, that they get to choose, they get to control their curriculum instead of their curriculum controlling them.
Yeah.
But
yep.
We wrote it this way because we wanted flexibility. We wanted to be able to take as long and choose exactly what we wanted to do.
And if you have a big family and you're not flexible, you kind of break. You have to learn to be flexible when you've got a lot of kids, because they demand it. You don't know what's going to come.
Yeah, so true. I feel like there are a lot of things that smaller families definitely could do, like, for example, involving the kids in chores. I know plenty of, folks with smaller families who do that, but I feel like I came around to these things almost like, I don't know if I would have intuitively done it, but it kind of came about by necessity. We were kind of forced into that approach to something or that philosophy or something, and it's been good for us. But, God kind of had to prod me along through circumstances to bring me to a point where now it's like, oh yeah, I'm glad I got there because this has been better for us, or healthier, or more flexible. All right, let's jump into some of these questions. So, Rita says, I find myself in front of 9 kids ages 5 through 12 in a German class. Yep, they aren't all mine, and they have very different skill sets. The biggest challenge for me is the stark difference in reading readiness and writing speed. While the theme can be interesting to all, I find it hard to, quote, teach deeply towards the older ones.
Yeah, that can be a challenge. I think if it depends on what her teaching format is, if she's wanting to get the teaching all done in class, or if she's expecting the kids to do some learning on their own outside of class, that makes a big difference. Because in class, you're going to have to teach more or less to the middle and let the younger kids glean stuff and have the older kids jump in with their extra knowledge and help teach. A lot of times when I read something aloud, if I want my kids, I have some of my kids are dyslexic. So even though they're older, maybe they can't read on the level that I would hope. So I'll read aloud things that other moms might not need to read aloud to their 11-year-old. And that way they can all join in together. So as a practical thing, I would say read aloud the things that you really want them to know, and then start a discussion about certain aspects.
I think one of the things that I've done that I have loved is that I kind of paired my kids up, and I put an older one with a younger one. And it has been awesome to have little learning buddy relationships begin, because the older ones actually gain a ton when they are teaching and helping, both in the life department, and also they learn a lot when they teach. And when they're reading to the little one, when they're discussing things with the little one,
or they're working on a project together with the little one.
Yeah. They learn a lot just by that cooperative act of doing it together. So that's one of the things that we do, is I kind of say, okay, lots of kids, I can't do it all. So we group up a little bit.
I love that, which is only possible if you're already studying. I mean, I guess you could do this even if the older kids were studying something different, but it just flows naturally together if they're already studying that same topic that the little ones are learning as well.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Next one. Mimi says, hi, Karen and Michelle. Can you tell us whether you are planning to diversify into any other subjects beyond your current LOL subjects and writer's workshop? I have a feeling you ladies have a lot more of your brilliance to share.
People keep asking us about math, and the answer is no.
No, we're not doing math.
We're not doing math. We feel fairly confident in teaching math, but we don't feel at all confident writing a math curriculum. So that's not ever going to happen. What other subjects are there? Foreign language? That's not happening.
Well, we will say this, and we do this with hesitation because we told you that we love slow growth. But we are writing a second edition of Layers of Learning right now, and it has been an awesome project. It's going to be even better than the first.
And it will take a few years before that is out. So yeah.
We're still teaching our kids, remember, and managing what's a pretty quickly growing business. But, we will always create resources. There will never be an end to that. But I don't know if we will just keep making Layers of Learning better, or if we will branch out laterally, but we will never stop creating.
It's hard to say, in 10 years, what will we be writing? We don't know, but, but right now our plans are to finish the writer's workshop, get that out, and then really work hard on that second edition and keep growing the homeschool community. We want to keep the units that we already have out current and keep our website up to date and things like that. So,
yeah. Mimi says, Karen and Michelle, you are a gift to the homeschool community. Thank you so much for the effort and the generosity. I agree. I concur.
Thank you, Mimi.
Thanks, Mimi.
And Tristan asked right along with that, is there an estimated timeline for the release of all the Writers Workshop units?
So the next 3, is that right, are going to come out sometime in July?
There will be quite a few more coming out this summer. In the summer, we get more time because we do take summers off from homeschooling for the most part. So more of our things come out in the summer than during the school year because of our homeschool mom job. But we never, ever, ever give specific release dates
Because we don't know.
Right now,
because tomorrow everyone might get the flu.
Yep.
You know, and so we're never entirely sure.
So, but we do hope to have several more units come out over the summer and then into the fall. We're hoping that by this time next year, they'll all be out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome. And, the first couple that aren't actually like workshop units, but they're like kind of a how-to and a quick start. It seems like at least for me, as I was looking at it, I was thinking like this by itself could carry me a long way, just getting an idea of like what it is I'm doing and giving me a framework for how to get started and get set up.
The first unit that you actually do with your children is called Jumpstart. And I've been doing that with my kids for the last 2 months. And Karen says about a month. But honestly, I needed more time to learn how Writers Workshop works. And I feel like my kids did too. So we've been spending extra time on that. And we want to do extra projects so that we can learn that writing process that Karen teaches. So you can spend a lot of time on just one unit. That it's so full of ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And we're trying to stay ahead. We don't want anyone to run out. So I will try to have them released regularly enough that no one will run out before the next one's out.
Yeah, and if you move at my pace, that won't be a problem at all. You'll have a couple of years to get the next few released.
Right, it will be good.
Okay, so and Betsy, I think Betsy asked, is this a unit study approach or a set of book lists? Sorry if this was covered. I joined late.
So we call them units, which can tend to confuse people. It's not really a unit study in the way that homeschoolers mean unit study. We don't take one subject and add in math and history and English all into that one topic. It's more of each booklet stands on its own and every topic stands on its own. So you could actually pick up any layers of learning unit and use it. It doesn't necessarily build. If there is prior knowledge, we mention that and you can catch up on the fly, like especially in science. But each booklet stands on its own and it has history, science, geography, and art that are all separate from each other within the book. So you can also just choose to use, a lot of people only use the history or they only want the art and the science and not the geography, and they just use parts of it, and that works great too.
Yeah. And so Betsy, hopefully you caught in their discussion that each unit is going to cover a history and a geography and a science and then the arts, which is, a combination of music and poetry and art history, those kind of things. Okay, Natalie, don't worry. I didn't miss your question. I just saw that there were a couple that were directly related to what had already been discussed. So I was going to tag those on. So sorry, Natalie, you're next. Natalie wants to know, I would love to know the philosophy behind their program and how they came to it.
The philosophy behind it.
Well, I think the philosophy is mostly love of learning. People who are using this should want to be learning with their children. If your desire is to set your kids over in a corner and have them learn on their own, then layers of learning really isn't for you. And that's fine. We're not saying that's wrong, but this is for people who want to be sitting there at that table with their kids, working on stuff, learning together. So that's our main philosophy, is that it's about love of learning. It's about the joy of being together as a family and learning things together and wanting to go to the library and dig stuff up and wanting to get out the clay and build something. That's the basic philosophy, I think.
Well, and along with that, the idea of moms wanting to be invested in it, I still check out books from the library for me about what we're learning about, like on my level. And I feel like homeschooling has fed me in so many ways. I am a far better educated person today than I was when I graduated from college.
Yeah, totally.
Like
Absolutely.
night and day.
Night and day.
And I recognize that tomorrow I will be more educated than I am today.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope to always be that way. I have learned so much through homeschooling, and that has brought me fulfillment and joy beyond my wildest dreams when I was a young homeschool mom. And so we just love to share that idea with people that, yeah, it's exhausting when you have little kids, but the things that really build you, that add to you, then you can give back to your family in happy ways because you feel fulfilled instead of just feeling drained all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. And as I'm listening to you talk about it, I'm thinking like, not only is it building you up and giving you the energy and the joy that you need to pour out into your children, but you're actually modeling what it is you want them to be doing, which is, just curiosity and following up on that and learning more and continuing to, expand your knowledge and your skills throughout adulthood. Natalie followed up to that question with, love it. Where did the name come from?
That's a good question. So it's kind of part of that you're exploring and learning. So layers of learning is because you're going to learn about one topic, and then you can layer more information on top of that and more information on top of that. You can branch out, you can go on little rabbit trails and take off. So at first we were thinking linked learning, like linking things together. And then we were like, no, it's not quite that. It's more like a birthday cake where you're actually like adding more layers. It gets better and better and bigger and more beautiful and more desirable as you go. On the back of our first book that we sold, we put a quote, and it's still on the back of all of our books. It says, "The world is so full of a number of things. I'm sure we should all be as happy as kings." And that's a little couplet from Robert Louis Stevenson. And that's kind of our mission statement. The world is so full of so many beautiful, wonderful things. And that's what we've put into these layers of learning books so that you can go out and discover them with your kids. And you can just layer one experience on top of another, one little bit of knowledge on top of another, until you build this whole cake, this whole joined experience where you've got this rich world that you're immersed in.
And on a very practical level, inside of each of the units, you've got kind of like 2/3 of the page is the main text or the explorations that you're looking at. But then there are all these little things off to the side, which are literally like little extra layers. Like, did you know that this is the origin of this word? Or did you know that that's where this tradition began? Or, just all these little, like exactly what they're describing, kind of like, oh, wow, that connects to some other thing that we were talking about. And just to keep the curiosity and the learning happening. Okay, let's see. Tristan says, can you suggest what to do when you have a very big age range? I have 10 kids, ages 1 through 17. The older ones don't really want to do things with the younger ones for learning. They just want to go dive into their studies.
Well, planners. Yeah. First of all, don't force your kids to join in with the younger ones if they really don't want to. You need to allow them that kind of choice and decide what they want to do. So Karen's she can describe the planners.
Well, I am a planner at heart. I plan everything. But I decided a long time ago, I can't manage all of my kids all at the same time. I just can't. It was exhausting and it was so tiring. I felt like I didn't have a brain at the end of the day. And I was irritated all the time. And that changed for me when I stopped caring so much about us all being on the same lesson. We don't all have to do math at 9 o'clock. We don't all have to do writing at 10, which is funny because we do so much group learning in our homeschool that you would think we're all doing it at the same time. We end up doing a lot of things at the same time, but my kids also have a lot of independent work, and I just put it in their planner and they check it off and they choose the order. And if somebody's done with something before somebody else, it's okay because they know what to go on to next. And I even have they have a little thing in their computer planner that's a list of computer things that they get to do, which they're all thrilled about. So if they've finished everything else, they've got their little approved learning games that they're allowed to go on, which is very motivating to my kids anyway. And so they get to manage themselves a little bit more because I couldn't manage all of those people all at the same time.
Yeah. So your little kids might be doing Mesopotamia with you and sitting at the table reading through a book and doing narration pages and building little ziggurats out of clay. And your older kids are using their planners and they're reading other books or they're watching a Khan Academy video on that time period. They're learning about the same information you are, but they're over at their desk. And then, like Karen said, the key is to come all back together at the end and have everyone share what they've learned or whatever project they completed. So you don't have to do everything together, especially once kids get older and they start to rebel. You shouldn't fight that too much.
So what you're describing is what I feel like we experience in a lot of areas of life, not just homeschooling itself, but, even chores and everything, which is like oftentimes mom is the bottleneck. Like the kids have time to do things, but does mom have time to like manage more or oversee more or hand out more or, teach more? And so it sounds like the planner is one of your solutions to, like you can kind of be the manager and assigner beforehand. And then during the day, you can be the read aloud to the little kids person and help with the map skills person. And
Right.
Well, and it's been awesome because now our kids have progressed to college, our oldest ones. And it has been so good to watch them be able to use some of those skills. They have learned to plan. They have learned to be self-sufficient, to go on to the next thing when they finish the last thing, and to kind of manage themselves, which is what we want our kids to be able to do. And I started that with my kids when they were really little because I needed to, because there were too many kids for me to be able to do it all.
yeah.
And so out of necessity, you have to manage yourself because I can't do it all.
Yeah.
And then you still have to check on them every day, make sure they've done it, keep up on that end. But
yeah,
Yeah.
you have to be the accountable, they have to be accountable to you at the end of the day, but you don't have to be accountable for every single assignment that's coming along throughout the day.
And you've got student planners in your shop, correct?
yeah,
We do.
yeah, we do.
Okay.
We
So if
And
you
they're
want to
also
take a look at those.
we keep them really cheap because honestly,
we're
'cause-
cheap.
Well, we're like, what would we pay? Really cheap. But most homeschoolers aren't rich people, and so we want to help homeschoolers out too. We've thought about that with our pricing of everything that we've done. So
Yeah,
that's part of it.
Very good. Kia says, thanks so much for this. This sounds wonderful. We use a Charlotte Mason style approach, yet I've been struggling with how I can do more with everyone together. This has given me hope for my one. And then she says, oops, for my crew of 10 kids.
I'm very Charlotte Mason in the way that I homeschool. That's very much my style. And it's that love of learning part that speaks to me so much, and the exploring and the going out in nature and all of that. And so that's a very big part of who I am as a homeschool mom.
And then Mimi, I think this is a follow-up to Mimi's earlier question about you all sharing more of your brilliance with us. But she said, I was thinking along the lines of dating advice for teens and all manner of life skills.
Oh, Mimi.
Wow.
We just podcasted about this a little bit, and we were talking about our teenagers and the things that we expect from them before they graduate from our homeschool. And so much of it is academic stuff, but a lot of it is not. And so I was just sharing some of the things that I make sure my kids understand before they date, before they drive, before they are going to move out, the things like that. And I guess we'll have to podcast about that some more.
Yeah.
So there's not going to be layers of dating or layers of...
No. I don't think so.
Mimi says, yes, she heard that one on your podcast. Betsy says, it's freeing to hear it's okay not to be able to manage all of the people. We only have 5 kids, but with over a decade age gap, it's hard to manage it all.
There aren't very many circles where you can say we only have 5 kids.
That's so true.
Five is a pack of kids. So
That is so true. Yeah.
so it's not
Natalie
easy to-
says, amen. Yeah. So our elder at church is also responsible for, we have semi-annual, what we call church work days. And so it's like everybody shows up at church and we do all those little projects like touching up paint and, like, I don't know, big things, little things. Anyway, but he says he knows he's had a good church work day when he hasn't had a chance to do any actual work because he's spent the whole time. It means enough people showed up, that he had to use all of his time, like, handing out projects or helping people find supplies or whatever. He was kept busy just managing. That meant he had a lot of workers on the ground. So he told that to me as, a kind of a reminder that sometimes as a mom, you do find yourself in that place where, it's chore time, but you can't actually, you can't spare the time to actually do a load of laundry because you're managing everybody else, especially when they're all little. Like you're managing them, doing all their tasks, and there's no time for you to actually be one of the workers because you're in the supervisory capacity. In a couple weeks, when we do, when we talk more about homeschool planning, I'm going to show you guys my charts that I print out. So I have just right along the lines with what Karen was saying, like in order to be sane, in order to not be the bottleneck that keeps everything from happening, I have these charts that I created on the computer and I print it out every week. And most all of it is already filled in. And all I have to do is go through and write like what lesson in math they each need to do, what pages they each need to read for science or history or whatever. You know, there's just a couple things I have to fill in by pencil. And that enables me to not have to like manage it all here. You know, like when a kid said, I finished my chores and I'm like, what were your chores again? You're in charge of doing, you know, so, and I'll be happy to share that with you guys. It's not like a thing that you could, you know, use for your kids because I didn't make it that way. I just made it for my kids, but I will just share it with you so you can get an idea. Adapt your own.
The more kids you have, the more I find that I have to have things on paper like that because my brain is too divided, too many directions. And I have to be able to take some of it and kind of brain dump it and say, okay, I don't have to worry about that part. It's on the page.
Yep. And my kids will come, you know, like when I'm somewhere else and they'll like rush by and be like, I'm done with my chores. And I'm like, I'm sorry, that doesn't count. I have to have my notebook in front of me. I have to check it off because otherwise I'll be asking you again in 20 minutes. Did you do your chores?
Yeah, I know. Yep. That's true.
All right. So Betsy wants to know, do you ladies black out certain hours to work so it doesn't interfere with homeschool?
Kind of.
What do you do?
Well, basically our mornings until noon are devoted to homeschooling. Okay. So we start around 8 on a good day. And then at noon, I'm more or less done. The kids might still have some work to do, but I'm more or less done. And then I'll use my afternoons for layers of learning, but it doesn't always work out that way because, you know, we might have a library day or we might have somebody has to go to soccer practice or whatever. You know, we have other life things that come up. So we have to be really flexible. But I have learned that I can't start working on layers of learning in the morning or I will just keep working on layers of learning.
I actually wake up super early. I know this is not popular. I wake up at
it's not popular with me.
No, she's a night owl big time. But I often wake up like between 4 and 5 a.m., somewhere around in there, and get some of my work done for the day. But then mostly it's that I have time that I block out that I say, you cannot work on that. Like, for example, almost always on Sundays, I have cell-free Sundays. So I turn off my cell phone because I get the notifications constantly and I've got to reply to people. And I love that, but I also have to have time to regroup and, you know, be with my family, be with myself and kind of recharge. And so I have certain times where I say no. And then during the school day, while we're doing homeschool, which for me is from like 8 to 2, we're more project based than Michelle's homeschool. So it takes a little bit longer.
What she means is I'm a little lazier.
No. You just choose the printable and I choose the big old project that's creating a mess.
That's true.
But while we're doing homeschool, I do not, you know, get on my computer or anything, except during lunchtime. I give myself a little bit of leeway. I hop on and check in with our email and customers and things like that. And then every once in a while we have like a crisis. Like we go, oh no, the website shut down.
And so then we're like, sorry kids, go read a book. We've got stuff to do.
But we do have to designate. We have to separate parts of our day and say that can't infiltrate because otherwise we won't be, you know, diligent in the things that we need to be doing with our families too.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I find it's a struggle sometimes even like, okay, my devices are all upstairs. I'm sitting here at the table. I've got this book that I'm supposed to be reading aloud, but my brain is still running on like, what am I going to do about that thing? And how am I going to fix that?
Yeah.
We
do that all the time too.
Yeah.
And Betsy says, girl, 4, what time do you go to bed?
11. 11's my bedtime.
She doesn't get enough sleep.
I don't know how that happened. Something about having little babies made me not require as much sleep. And I was exhausted. But then once my babies grew up, I still couldn't sleep. So I work.
I didn't sleep for over 10 years. So now I'm catching up. I go to bed around 11 too, but I don't get up until 8. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. But I mean, flexibility and each person doing what works for them and what feels, refreshing or restful to them. And Betsy's making like shock face emojis, like the little screaming man.
Okay, well, I will say this. Yesterday, while reading To Kill a Mockingbird to my children, I fell asleep right in the middle of our school day. And they came over and put a blanket on me, and I slept for 3 hours, didn't wake up. And they were like, yes, Mom's sleeping. So that does happen.
I love that. I saw that meme on Facebook recently that said, if you want to take a nap while your kids are home, just say to them, wake me up in 30 minutes so we can clean the house. And then they'll do whatever they can do to keep quiet. Yep. Okay, Kia says, this is awesome. Must go and tend to my kiddos, but I will be going to your website later tonight. What a blessing. I agree. And Betsy says, LOL. So fun. Okay, Penny says, I fell asleep while reading lots of times, especially when I was, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And Natalie wants to know what the website is. Natalie, it's actually layers-of-learning.com, or is it dot? Yeah, let's see. I've got it in here. Yeah. Okay. But anyway, the green button right underneath us where it says Layers of Learning. If you just click that green button, Natalie, that'll take you right to the website.
And Googling Layers of Learning gets you right there too. If you just Google that.
Yep. So there's a free unit you can grab. And then I think I noticed today is it just the bundles of a year that are on sale, or some things are on sale?
We always leave those on sale though. We leave our year bundles on sale so that if you want to buy the whole year, you can get it at a little discount.
Got it.
And people always ask us, is that only for a short time? Nope.
It's been on sale for the entire time we've been selling it. So
okay.
And it was going to stay that way.
Okay, good. Because I was like trying to make sure I was prepared for tonight. And then I was like, wait a minute, I'm not sure what the deal is. I don't want to say something that isn't accurate. So good. Yeah. And it's like under $80 for a whole year's worth if you're like getting the PDF, downloads, which is what we've done. And I've preferred that. I do a lot of, I think the only thing I regularly print out from every unit is the book list, just because I like to be able to write on it and mark off what I've gotten and, keep a copy when I go to the library and that kind of thing. But most of it I just can use digitally and print out the maps or whatever we need from the back. So.
Yeah, Michelle uses it all on her iPad.
Yeah, I use the Notability app and just look at it right in there. You can write notes on it right inside the app and everything. So it's really cool.
I'm a total book person, so I always have to have a book in my hand. I didn't
even own the books for years and years. and Karen was like, you need to have the books. And now they just sit on my shelf and I don't use them.
When I open up a new unit, what I do is I go through in like Adobe, because I don't have the fancy Adobe where you can, make changes to PDFs. I just have the free reader, but I go through and I make a comment at the beginning of each section. So like where, like in the history section, I just make a comment. And so that way, if I open up the comment panel on the right-hand side and click on any of those, it'll hop me right to like the history or the science or the whatever, so I can, so that's helped me to keep a little organized. And that way, if I'm, like if I'm pulling it up on my tablet to read to the kids, I can hop right to the next section. So, okay. Well, ladies, thank you so much for spending a whole hour with us and answering, such a variety of different questions this evening, both about layers of learning and business and teens and dating and all the things.
All the things.
So thank you for having us. It was fun.
Yeah, we definitely should do this again. Maybe in the fall, you guys can come on and tell us some more about the writers' workshop specifically, because I know that's been a hot topic. Folks have been asking about this. So, yep. Betsy says, thanks to all three of you. Love Tuesday nights. Me too. I look forward to them every week. So, okay. Well, guys, if you're interested, like I said, hop over to Layers of Learning. Definitely grab that first unit. It's free. And it's the whole real unit. You could really just start using it in your homeschool to see how it works. And it might be fun to do it now at the end of the school year. The kids are probably ready for something a little different, and then it'll give you a great taste of what it's like. And you can think of it, as you're planning over the summer, if this is going to be a good fit for your family for next year. So, all right. Thank you, Karen and Michelle, for joining us. And we will see you next week. We're going to be talking to Pam Barnhill. So we'll have some more planning conversations next week.
Thanks. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, good night.